Hi, welcome to Hill and Ponton's live Q&A today. I am Shannon Brewer. With me is Kerry Baker, and we are here to answer your questions.
Hello,
Kerry,
everyone.
I'm going to let you get started.
All right. I'll take the first one. Catherine McDaniel. Sorry, my inability to read on Tuesday. 1 of 2. Received BVA grant 5 conditions. Congratulations. 10% each bilateral upper extremity, 30% cervical spine, 10% each for GERD and chronic bronchitis. Already receiving SMCM. With the additional, does it equal another 50%, or should I receive M.5? If so, what should I do? All right, go back to that first part. So yeah, that does, you got 10%, 10% each upper extremity. That's going to give you 21 with the bilateral factor, and with the 30 and the other 10s. Yeah, that's most definitely a combined rating of 50%. I think it's 60, or maybe even, I don't think it's 70. And so, yes, if you're at SMCM, that should give you a half step to M.5. If they haven't issued the decision yet from the Board of Veterans Appeals decision, because they have to process that at the regional office level, check it at the point you get that decision if you haven't gotten it yet. That's when they should, if they're doing it right, add the half step, because it should be just a mathematical issue like at that point. Doesn't mean they will remember to add the half step. We see them all the time. In fact, I saw one yesterday. They didn't add the full step. And so if that happens, I would probably just do an HOR and ask for a conference and say, look, I was at SMCM. I got an additional 50%. Granted by the board, I should be M.5, and they can usually fix that relatively easy. That's what I would do. Anything different there, Shannon?
No, I agree with you. Just you need to point it out to them because they miss it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, question number 2 from Sherry Sanford. Hello, 100% permanent and total, recently diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Can it be secondary to osteoporosis? I'm housebound but need an attendance. How hard will it be to switch? Thanks for all you do. So I don't know about RA being secondary to osteoporosis. I've never heard that before. That doesn't mean, I'm not a doctor. So my recommendation would be to talk to your doctor, the one that has diagnosed you with RA, and ask them if there's any relationship to the osteoporosis. I'm assuming that you are already service connected for osteo and not for the rheumatoid arthritis yet. So that's why I would recommend checking with your doctor. As far as switching from housebound to aid and attendance, they're 2 completely different special monthly compensations. So housebound, if you need aid and attendance, my recommendation would be to get your doctor to fill out the aid and attendance form. It's a VA form 2680, and talk about why you need help with your daily activities based on the conditions you are currently service connected for. Now, if you need the RA to get the aid and attendance, if that's the reason you need the aid and attendance, then maybe you need to work on getting the RA service connected first, because it does need to be based on your service connected conditions. But as far as being hard to switch, I mean, it's just kind of you're asking for a new special monthly compensation. They're not switching you so much as granting something new. I guess. Kerry, would you agree with that, or you think that's?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It would be easier to answer if we knew what you were service connected for. And again, I'm with Shannon. I'm assuming you're service connected for osteoporosis. And I'm assuming you're at least housebound through either housebound or through 100 plus 60. Most of the time, that's 100 plus 60. If it's not osteoporosis, could it be related to another disability you've got? But what I would also think is, all right, so the rheumatoid arthritis is going to affect most of the time it's going to affect musculoskeletal joints. The osteoporosis potentially could affect the same thing, even though it's a little bit different. And are you service connected for other musculoskeletal things? Because it could come down to a point where can you really tell if it's the rheumatoid arthritis or the other disabilities causing the need for A&A? If you can't clearly delineate that, then it could be like a Mittleider case where they have to just assume it's related to the service-connected conditions. I don't know, if it would stack up like that given your other conditions, but that's always a possibility too.
Yeah, they have to give you the benefit of the doubt. So if they can't tell which condition's causing it, they have to assume that it's the one that's service-connected.
Yeah. Tiny gun 4. I don't know what that is. One of few. All right. Hello. Thank you for your time today. You're welcome. I finally received a favorable lumbar sprain CMP, and I wanted to ask if I can tie my hip, my knees, my ankle into my spine, scoliosis, degenerative disc disease, disc bulging, etc. I keep hearing the other way around, that if you have a knee or hip, etc., as primaries, then you can claim the spine secondary. I would just like clarification. Y'all are awesome and loved. All right. So, there's no hard and fast rule that it only goes up versus down, like from the knees to the back. I think why you probably hear that more often is that, problems with the ankles or feet or knees can throw your gait off. But, I've known plenty of people with a bad lumbar spine that can throw their gait off too, depending on which side pain might be on and which, if it sounds like you may have radiculopathy, if you've got the disc problems, that can certainly cause limping in one or both legs, and that can wear you out after a while. So at the end of the day, I think it can go either way. It might be a little more common to go up than down, but there's no rule on that. It's what you can link medically to your lumbar spine. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. If you can get a medical opinion linking the lower extremity disabilities to the back, you can win. You can get service connection for those lower extremities. But keep in mind, to the extent that those lower extremity residuals are something like radiculopathy, you want to make sure that VA awards service connection for those residuals secondary to your back. You shouldn't have to claim them separately. The VA might try to say you do, depending on the outcome of your claim. But if those residuals are there, they should be automatically granted as residuals of the spine, because the rating schedule spells it out that way. So that's what I've got in a nutshell. You got anything, Shannon?
Nope, that's what I would have said too. Okay, this one's from Michael Finn. Hi, Kerry, Shannon, and Nate. I'm 100% permanent and total, 60% rheumatoid arthritis of the hand, 40% TMJ, that's a good rating, 30% plantar fasciitis left foot, 20% left ankle sprain, left and right knee, 20% each degenerative arthritis, 10% left and right knee extension, 20% left and right knee patellofemoral syndrome, flexion okay. Now the BVA has granted special monthly compensation M for the loss of use of the hands last year. VA rated up to N.5. So I applied for SMCK. They granted it. They granted Q, clear and unmistakable error, and bumped my 60% of the hands to 100% as well. They put SMCK on top and did not bump me to SMCO. I'm putting in an HLR. Question, what specific law can I give them, the HLR, to show them that they should bump me to SMCO? And they denied my ANA, citing pyramiding, yet found favorable evidence saying I need to EVA. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. So the pyramiding, I'm assuming that they denied aid and attendance because you're already getting, let's see, an L for those conditions, and you can't get 2 L's for the same condition. So I'm assuming that's what, as far as specific law. I'm not exact. I feel like I need more information here. Kerry, do you know what? Are you seem to be looking?
Yeah, I think I know what he's referring to.
Okay.
So there's two different ones. There's a statute and a regulation. The reason they call it SMC M or N or R or whatever is because it's tied to 38 U.S. Code Section 1114, subsection L for aid and attendance and loss of use of both feet and whatever else gets you L, M for whatever gets you M. So at those subsections, all right, 1114 subsections L, M, N, O, R, all right, those are where those requirements are spelled out. So it's Title 38 U.S. Code 1114, and then those various subsections. If you're looking in the regulation, it's kind of the same thing, but with at 38 Code of Federal Regulations 3.350, and then those subsections. For example, H, subsection H is special aid and attendance benefits, R1 maximum, and it explains how you get to R1. From the sounds of what you read there, Shannon, it sounds like you SPED is already at N.5 plus K. All right. If you are at N.5 plus K and you need aid and attendance, it does not say if you are service connected for aid, if you are getting aid and attendance, if you need aid and attendance. And I don't know anybody that would be at N.5 plus K that doesn't need aid and attendance. You go straight to O. All right.
That's the thing. I don't know the site for that.
I'm wrong on that. I'm sorry. I apologize. The N.5 plus K puts you at O. Okay. I got ahead of myself. So if they're not compensating you at O, they made a mistake already. And if they're telling you aid and attendance would be pyramiding, you're dealing with some stupid inside VA that don't know SMC. N.5 plus K puts you at O. If you're at O, however you get there, there's a couple of different ways to get there, and that's one of them. If you're at O and you need aid and attendance, which again, I don't know of anybody at O that doesn't need aid and attendance, you go to R1. And that's what you have to show. So sounds like if you're N.5 plus K, you should already be at O because of that. And if you're at O and you need A&A, you go straight to R1.
What's the citation though for that N.5 plus K is O? Because I don't know the site off the top of my head. Do you know the citation for that?
I think it's 3.350 subsection H. I had the book open. Let me get back to it. Don't quote me on the subsection on that particular. It's all 3.350, and there's lots of subsections that spell out all of the SMC rates. So let's see. There's subsection H1, and there's H2, and there's H3, and subsection H2 says entitlement to compensation at the intermediate rate between N and O plus special monthly compensation under 1114K. So right there, 3.350 H2. That is the N.5 plus K. And that goes on to spell out that will get you the R1 rate. A veteran receiving compensation at the intermediate rate of N.5 plus special monthly compensation under K, who establishes a factual need for regular aid and attendance or a higher level of care is also entitled to an additional allowance during the periods he or she is not hospitalized at the U.S. government expense, and that is under R1. So this is what they're getting wrong here, is this is where you can use aid and attendance twice, or some other condition twice that got you to the O in the first place. You can't use two conditions twice to get to the O, which you don't need to because you're already N.5 plus K. That automatically gets you to O. And then it's just a matter of establishing aid and attendance. It doesn't matter if what's causing the need for aid and attendance is what got you to O. That's where you can use it twice. And so, yeah, they're wrong there. You got a straight shot to R1 from what you're saying there. I like me some R1. I don't like it when my clients need R1, but if you can get it, it's a good benefit.
Do you want me to take this one since I made you answer the last one?
I did. I can take it. I need my right pair of glasses. I can stand out a little further. Marty, one or two of my friends' Vietnam service husband is 100% for Parkinson's disease for 5 years. He had aid and attendance awarded recently. If he has ED, SMCK, and loss of use of both hands, can't grasp both feet, falls, will that get him to R? No amputations. I don't know if anything else is service connected. All right, so hypothetically, if he has loss of use of both hands and both feet, yes, in a nutshell. Now they have to award SMC for the loss of use of both hands and SMC for the loss of use of both feet. The feet would be an L. The hands would be an M. We just talked about N.5 plus K gets you to O. Any two rates between L and two independent rates between L and N, can't count twice in this scenario, also gets you to O. Right. And again, same thing from there. If you're at O and you need A and A, you go to R1. I don't know of anybody that doesn't have use of any extremity that doesn't need A and A. Now, you say he falls. That will not be by itself, depending on how much he can walk before he falls, enough to get you loss of use of the feet. He may be entitled to it. It just depends on how, if you can walk, out your front door to your mailbox and come back in without no help, you're probably not going to get loss of use of the feet. You can't take 2 steps without falling. That's a different story. If you can walk with a walker, that's a kind of a gray area. It's hard to get depending on who's looking at the case. But what you can also do, if there's no loss of use of the feet, you can get loss of use of both hands and then look at every other condition except the hands, because you can't use them twice, and see if every other disability that's service connected would result in the need for A and A. And if they say yes, then you've got 2 rates between L and N. You've got 2 L's, or I'm sorry, you've got an L for A and A and an L for and an M for the hands. That would get you to O. I know it's complicated and it sounds like alphabet soup. So, yeah, you don't need amputations. So that you might be there with that scenario.
Okay, this one's from FGN. Filed an HLR in February 2027. Got a decision letter yesterday stating difference of opinion was being asserted. What does that mean? So I would assume probably that you had two different C&P exams that said different things. So you had one say they gave you a favorable opinion. They got another one that was a negative opinion, and so they're wanting to reconcile those. There's some conflict over whether it should be granted or not, and so they're going to get a third opinion. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about CMP exams today because that's the most stressful parts of the VA claim. I have had multiple veterans ask me this week questions about whether they should attend their exam that's been scheduled, what they should do to prepare for the exam, what to do if it doesn't go well. So I just thought I would address some of that today for everybody. You're going to get different advice from different attorneys, but I almost always recommend attending the exam if VA schedules one. If you can't attend, you can talk to them about rescheduling or maybe getting an exam at your home virtually, something like that. But if you can make it, I would say make it. Do they schedule unneeded exams? Yes, they do. Are some of the exams useless? Yes, they are. But if you don't attend, they may hold it against you. So I recommend that you go. But let me say, while the CMP exams are important and a good exam can, get you a grant, a bad exam is not the end of the world and it's not going to be the end of your case. I would say probably 90% of the cases I've handled and gotten a grant for have had at least one bad exam in their file. So it's not the end of your case and you can fight that. So don't stress to the point that you're making yourself miserable about this. Just go to the exam, do the best you can. To prepare for the exam, best I can tell you is be honest, but also remember that you want to talk about your worst days. If you're having a good day that day and you can bend over, but normally you can't, tell them that and make sure that you're talking about the days that are actually disabling. Those are the ones that you should be rated on, not if you happen to have a good day. If you're going into an exam to establish service connection, make sure that you are talking about how your condition is related to service. I know that sounds simple, but the CMP examiners will sometimes do things to kind of pull you off of that. They're going to ask about your childhood. They're going to ask about your marital problems. They're going to ask about your financial problems. They're going to try to pull you away from talking about the fact that, for instance, this is a PTSD exam that I'm thinking about, that your stressors in service are what caused your current problems. So focus on the service connection issues and how it's related to service. Similarly, if you're going in for an increased rating, take a look at the symptoms the VA uses to rate that condition. You can look up the diagnostic code for the condition online, and then look at the symptoms that support a higher rating than what you're getting. Take some notes for yourself. Think about what kind of symptoms you're having and make sure that you talk about those to your CMP examiner. On another note, I also get calls from veterans telling me all the time, I think I failed the exam. I think it went really poorly. You can't fail the exam. Some of them are bad. You're going to get the report and it's crummy, but you actually can't tell that from how the exam goes sometimes. I've had veterans call me and say, I think it went really badly. I get the report and it's a favorable exam. It's not very thorough. It could definitely be a better medical exam, but they granted it. So don't be discouraged if it goes poorly. Similarly, they may tell you, I'm going to get you a higher rating. Don't count on that either. The examiners say stuff and then it doesn't turn out to be the case when you get the report. So just, keep in mind that you can't tell how it's going. I would say get a copy of the report. Get one for yourself, take a look at it, take a look at whether the VA properly rated your condition based on what the examiner said. Sometimes it's not the examiner's fault. They give a favorable opinion and VA denies anyway. So for something like they can't corroborate your stressor, something like that. So that's the issue that you need to work on there. Or sometimes, the examiner marks all these boxes and says, you have moderate radiculopathy, you have moderate pain, you have all these things. And then you look at the decision that you actually get and the rater says mild, not moderate. So in that case, that's a pretty easy argument. You don't even have to worry about the exam. All this to say, you're not stuck with the decision the VA makes and you aren't stuck with a bad exam. This is an area where you need to be aware of your options, be ready to advocate for yourself, ask for a new exam if you need one, or get a private medical opinion to counter the CMP exam. Make notes for yourself. You can always submit a statement saying why the exam went poorly if it does. I would see the report first to make sure that it's bad before I responded to it.
Thank you, Shannon. It was good. I will do a little rant later about your subject, just for a minute or two. But for now, we'll do some more questions. I'll take this one. Daryl Riley. Hi, Mr. Riley. Thank you, Mr. Baker. You are the GOAT of SMC. I have a feeling you might know why, Mr. Riley. You submitted appeal in March, and in June 9th, I was granted R1 and earlier effective date 3 months. Wow, thank you again. You are very welcome.
Congratulations, Mr. Riley.
And that was somewhat of a quick turnaround. I was surprised how fast that was, but I saw that today.
They're moving pretty quick. I'm not necessarily on SMC, but on a lot of issues, everything seems to be speeding up, which is good in some ways. Okay, this one's from Remy86. Hello, I recently had a shin splint CMP exam ordered by the CAVC, but wasn't able to complete the range of motion portion because I was having a really bad flare-up. Will this exam still be usable for an increase? I've already been rated 10% for both since 2012, and the examiner stated my condition waxes and wanes. It depends. I mean, sometimes they'll take that inability to do the testing and consider that a higher rating. Usually, though, what I see is them saying that you didn't do the testing, so they can't give you a higher rating. That's the kind of condition we were talking about a little bit earlier, with the CMP exams, where you might need to advocate for yourself on that and talk to them about the fact that, that was one of your bad days, and that's what your bad days are like. Maybe you can get your private doctor to talk about that for you in your records or something like that to kind of combat that exam. My guess is that's not going to be an increased rating, but I mean, it could be. There's an argument for it.
I would, in that situation, I would also suggest doing a lay statement. If the, I agree with Shannon, there's a chance that may not come out in your favor. And if that's the case, if you do something like a lay statement, explain why you couldn't do it. I'd probably appeal it to the board because I think you're just going to get a better decision there. But I would do a lay statement and maybe go to the board's evidence lane or get the lay statement in beforehand, and then you could go to the direct lane if they don't give you the increase, and then argue to the board that, hey, they should take into account your lay statement because the examiner sure as hell didn't, but you couldn't do it. All right, Captain Jim. Hi guys, I have an HLR in, waiting on decision. I have a few more things I need to put in. If I put them in while I'm waiting on a decision, will this hold everything up? One of these is for TBI with a nexus letter from my VA neurologist. No, it will not hold things up. Things today in VA, every claim you put in has its own claim stream and may very well be worked by different people around the country. Now, having said that, I would not advise, just like I never advise, putting in tons of claims at various points if you have the ability to put one in at one point or two in instead of 6 in. All right, it's just easier to look at the file. If you have an advocate, it's much easier. It's much easier for VA. They tend to miss things. You have lots of claims going on at once. It just makes looking at the overall thing a little more complicated. Is it going to hurt your other claims? No, absolutely not. It's not going to delay them. But the more you have going on in a case all at the same time, depending on how fast they review the file, there's an added chance they could miss something. That's just food for thought.
And I probably have a different perspective on it than Kerry. I would disagree on that because I tend to think get everything filed. No, I don't recommend filing things that are random and not going to get anything for you. I would prefer that people not file, for, uh, 0% things that aren't going to do anything for you. But if you've got a TBI claim, file it. But that's my perspective. I'm just thinking of like your effective date, and that's a good claim. So I would want to get that in there.
Well, and Shannon and I agree on this,
Okay.
and maybe I said it wrong. I agree definitely. If you've got other things to file them.
Yeah.
But just talking broadly, if you're going to file claims, if you're going to file for 10 different things, try to do it all at one time.
I agree.
Instead of doing 10 separate claims.
Okay, I think I misunderstood what you were saying. Yeah, I agree
if you're
with that.
already underway, it's too late at this point. You need to file for TBI, file for the TBI. But if you just, and people haven't filed, I would rather see everything you can file for on one claim. And because VA, you're probably going to get it bifurcated by VA if there's multiple issues. Don't bifurcate it yourself if you don't have to. That's all. But
yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is the Veterans Aid. If a veteran wins a TBI claim at the board, which granted service connection, but when implementing it, the RO combined it with already service-connected PTSD, what is the best course of action to split the two ratings up? Thanks. So it depends. TBIs can be related. They can be rated with your PTSD if the only symptom you're having is the mental health. If you have a TBI and you can't, and it's just mental health, they're not going to give you two separate mental health ratings, one for TBI, one for PTSD. Now, the thing with TBI is, though, it causes other conditions besides just mental health. I'd be looking for tinnitus. I'd be looking for migraines. I'd be looking for cognitive problems. You want to figure out what symptoms do you have from the TBI, and those are the things that can be separated out. But some of it may be lumped in with the PTSD if there's mental health overlap there.
Yeah, that's always a tough one, trying to split those apart.
Yeah.
All right, rail. I always put the wrong pair on. Railroader retired. Part 1 of 2. Good afternoon. The BVA awarded me GERD. The VA order DBQ and IMO both reflected at least 30%. I don't know why they would order an IMO. Part 2, but the VA is only assigning a 10%. I am currently 100% total and permanent. Should I continue to claim for the back pay of 17 months? Well, yeah, to pursue the claim for back pay or not poke the bear. So you're talking about an effective date, right? Well, you're talking about an increased rating for effective date purposes. If an increase to 30% is going to get you 17 months of back pay, and you're going to limit your appeal to that issue, then that's not likely to impact what you're currently getting. Yeah, I would try to get that 17 months of back pay. I wouldn't file for an increase in something that's already static and could end up hurting your current benefits. I try to stick to a golden rule of don't do anything that's going to hurt what you're currently getting. But it doesn't sound like that scenario would do that. You would be pursuing just the GERD and increased rating back to the effective date that it sounds like it should be. So I think you're safe.
Okay, this one's from Thomas. So my right ankle was rated 10% back in 2004. My left ankle was rated as secondary to the right ankle. No mention of bilateral. Is it only given to certain conditions? So my guess is here that you are getting the bilateral factor. They don't ever say that in the rating decisions. It's in the rating code sheet. And that is where you'll see at the bottom of it, underneath all the ratings and the numbers, they'll say that you're getting the bilateral factor of probably 1.9 here if you've got two 10%. So you always get it if you've got a left and right, like right ankle, left ankle. Yes, you absolutely get a bilateral factor. You may already be getting it because it doesn't, with two 10% conditions, it's not going to make that much difference in your overall rating. It's an extra 1.9%. So you may be, and it may be, you got it, but it's still rounded down, so it didn't change your rating. So yes, you get it. It's not just in certain conditions. As long as it's a left and right lower extremity or left and right upper extremity, you get that bilateral factor, but it may just be showing up in the code sheet. Anything to add, Joe?
No, I agree completely. Holland Love. 1 or 2. Good afternoon, Shannon, Kerry. Good afternoon. I filed a BVA appeal for condition A, arguing that it was, something's on my screen, arguing that it was underrated and should have had an earlier effective date. In their decision, the BVA judge denied a higher rating, but the decision completely ignored the effective date issue. What remedies do I have to address something that the BVA overlooked in their decision? Thanks and have a great weekend. All right. So if you're sure they overlooked that, I mean, obviously, if they didn't address it, they didn't address it. That's pretty easy to tell. You would appeal that to the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, in my opinion. Now, I see that happen from time to time where someone thinks they have the rating and the effective date on appeal. So go back through your earlier appeals. Make sure that that issue was an active issue before the board. So make sure when they granted it, you appealed both the rating and the effective date. When they addressed it, you appeal the rating and the effective date. And when the board addressed it, they did not. If that's the scenario, you've got a straight shot in the court, I think. I know Shannon handles a number of court cases, so she might have something to add to that.
Yeah, no, if you appealed it and they didn't make a decision on it, you have a very straightforward appeal to the court. You can also do a motion for reconsideration at the board. I never do those because they just sit on them forever, and it's very hard to get them to make it. I mean, sometimes they make a decision on them, but I mean, it could sit there for 2 years and you're not going to have anything that you can, get onto. So I would, if you did appeal it and they didn't respond and they didn't address it in any way, then appeal to the Court of Appeals.
Mm-hmm.
This one's for T. Hirsch 102. I had a genetic disorder in service, which the BVA decided was a genetic disease. Remanded to the RO for consideration of aggravation. RO denied it because it was a genetic condition, but did not address the issue of service agitation as directed by the BVA. Is this a CAR issue, Q, or should I go directly back to the board? Can I see part 1 again? Okay, and part 2 again. Okay. So the board told them they had to address aggravation and they didn't. You could file a CAR on that, but I think that's going to be hard to do because they're going to say you can't file an HLR to a board decision, and you can, but that's a whole other thing. I'd go back to the board on it and say they didn't do it. It's not taking as long as the board as it was, and they're going to make them do it or do it themselves, which would be great. I'd go back to the board on that. What would you do, Kerry?
I think I would too. Those types of cases just aren't done very well at the local level. They don't understand some basic stuff these days. They're not going to understand the difference between a genetic disease and a deformity you're born with. They're not the same thing. I don't think they're going to get it. And the board is not, the one thing they don't like to tolerate is when the RO ignores their remand instructions.
Yeah.
So I don't think you would get a denial from the board. You might get another remand, but like Shannon said, the board might just do it themselves. I think they have the authority to do that. And, I've seen them do it before, so
Yeah.
yeah. Hello, everyone. I want to talk about medical opinions. Shannon touched on CMP exams. I'm going to take that into medical opinions. You've heard me rant about medical opinions before. You will hear me rant about medical opinions again. I'm going to keep ranting until somebody listens. Now, there are a ton of things I could rant on about medical opinions, so that would take my rants into next week, and I only have a couple of minutes, so I'm going to keep it brief and just talk about three main things, and that's just three main things for right now. This is not all of the main things. There are plenty of other main things I typically am upset about. So medical opinions, cause and effect, right? A cause and effect analysis is always higher than the benefit of the doubt standard, which is the standard of service connection. It is the legal standard by which service connection is granted or denied. It is not granted or denied on a cause and effect analysis, even though when you CMP examiners out there issue a medical opinion based on the cause and effect, it is almost always denied, because without human experimentation, you usually can't reach cause and effect, which is one of the reasons we don't use it in VA. So stop using it in your medical opinions. Next point. Some other intervening event is likely the cause of the disability. I'm not quoting there, I'm a little summarizing, but that's pretty close to a quote. You threw your knee out in service, you got treated, years go by, and you file a claim, and the examiner says there's no continuity of treatment, which is not a thing. It's continuity of symptoms, by the way. And then says it's some other intervening event that's not noted in the record anywhere, just some other imaginary intervening event is likely the cause. Listen up, CMP examiners. Absence of evidence is not negative evidence. You can't just pluck something from the sky that doesn't exist and say that's likely the cause. The board will shoot down your medical opinion every single time. And board, if you don't, you know the court will. Next topic. It's not negative just because it's not presumptive. What am I talking about? If you happen to have a Vietnam vet that's conceded or presumed exposed to Agent Orange, and you get asked to issue a medical opinion on whether his colon cancer is related to the presumed Agent Orange exposure, and if you come out and say, well, VA hasn't agreed that colon cancer is related to Agent Orange, so it's less likely than not related to Agent Orange. That's my opinion. That is inadequate on its face every single time. First, if it were that simple, they wouldn't be asking you for a medical opinion. Come on. Just because it's not presumptive, and if it is presumptive and they're asking you for a medical opinion, which happens these days for some damn reason, they shouldn't be doing it. All right. So stop issuing negative medical opinions just because it's not presumptive. You got to do a case-by-case analysis. And the last thing I'll touch on is be thankful for now that they don't do quality assurance reviews on your medical opinions. Oh my God, they really should. I'm going to push VA every chance I get, which I don't get many, for them to start doing quality reviews on your medical opinions, because they are terrible. And that's it. See you guys later.
Tell them how you really feel, Kerry.
Yeah. I got to watch my language when I do that stuff.
All right, I'll take this one. Story Sprout Stories. Mental health CMP examiner said only wanted me to tell him how I was doing at the time of the exam after the VA had medicated me. He selected lower rating because the medications help. So medications equal a lower rating. So the way the rating code works, the only time medication is mentioned in the mental health is with the 10% rating. If all of your symptoms are cured by your medication, and you don't have any symptoms when you're on the medication, you're supposed to get a 10% rating. Other than that, they're supposed to rate it based on the symptoms that you are currently having. So my understanding and the way, is that if your medication's helping, your rating may be lower. If you're not having the symptoms anymore that qualify for the higher rating. That's, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, yeah, that is correct. If the medication is helpful for that condition, for mental health, then yeah, that can make your rating lower. Kerry, do you have a?
No, I mean, look, I think you're addressing a slippery slope issue. There's been back and forth with VA changing a regulation on that topic. There's a court case that calls them to do it. There's a little bit of confusion. They are, in general, they are not supposed to lower your rating based on medication. All right. And that's why VA pulled that regulation back. It was being interpreted by the whole world as that's what VA was going to do. It's not really what the regulation did, even though there was language in there that made it sound like it. But Shannon's right. For mental health, they're going to rate how you currently are, not how you currently are on medication or how you currently are off medication, just how you currently are. Should you not take your medication to go half nuts before you go to an exam? No, I don't think so. Medication's there to help, but it doesn't always help. So it's a slippery slope.
I don't like it.
No, it's hard to give advice on it. I've heard people suggest, if you got high blood pressure, stop taking your blood pressure medicine before you don't taking your blood pressure medicine before you go to the exam. For Christ's sakes, that's, you can't use your benefits if you die of a stroke. But if medication, at the same time, how much medication are you on? Are you on 5 different kinds and you're maxed out to the hilt, and that's the only thing and you can't function very much on that medication? Maybe that's an argument that the Board of Veterans Appeals needs to hear. But if a small medication practically eliminates your symptoms, yeah, you might, it might be what, but I would disagree with your statement that so meds equal lower rating. It's not supposed to be like that, but yeah, it can happen from time to time. All right, Terrence Brown, I'm rated 100% overall. My ratings add up to 420%. Turned down for A&A at both regular and HLR. VA went to BVA, got a terrible 2680 from my primary care, who I see exactly three over 5 years. How's my chances? I'm not following that. Are you following it?
Yeah, I think he's got a primary care at the VA who he's seen 3 times in 5 years and gave him a crappy A&A exam.
Oh, okay. Well, I can probably guess why I don't know about the board, but the regional office has denied that. It doesn't, you've got a bunch of combined ratings. You're at, is this another?
Oh, this is same guy. Yeah.
Okay. Rated 100% PTSD. Okay, well, that shoots down what I was about to say. With 70% added for a TBI, 40 back, 20 left, 20 right leg, 50 sleep apnea, 30 TMJ, 50 big bunch of 10s. What should my SMC be? No ANA. Why should my SMC be no ANA? Look, you can't assume because you have all those ratings, you get ANA. Now, I'm not saying VA is right on this. It sounds like you're in pretty bad shape. What I was going to say is a lot of times they will deny ANA because you don't have a single 100%, even though the statutes and the regs don't require a single 100%. It's a little segment in their manual that was ill-conceived a long time ago. But at the same time, does your PTSD and your TBI and your back and all that, does it leave you the inability to feed yourself and bathe yourself and go to the bathroom yourself? Or does it leave you a danger to yourself if left alone? And I'm talking about more than leaving a stove on occasionally or forgetting to take your medicine. Does it cause those things? If it does, then you take your case to the Board of Veterans Appeals, and you supplant the case with lay statements. You get a statement from whoever is providing the assistance to you. And there should be somebody providing assistance to you because you're filing for ANA telling VA that I need assistance from somebody else on a regular basis. So there should be somebody doing that and get a statement from them. This is a winnable case as long as the need is there. If it's being misrepresented to the raters, which we see all the time, that's something you can fight. So don't just assume you don't get ANA. But you can't compare it to the 420% rating when you add all your stuff up. That's just not how it works. It's not a one does not equal the other. So you're just torturing yourself when you do that. Anything else?
I think we have time for one more question, two more questions. Let's do two. All right. This question is from Cheryl Johnson. My husband, a retired Navy fighter pilot, is at 80% for prostate cancer, tinnitus, PTSD, etc. Just diagnosed with and about to start treatment for aplastic anemia. Could this get him to 100%? Potentially. And if he's retired, I don't know if he's working now, but I'm looking at those ratings with an 80% and thinking unemployability. So whether or not the aplastic anemia gets him to 100%, I'm not sure whether that's connected to his cancer treatment or, where the anemia comes from and how it's connected to service. Potentially, that could get his rating up. But I would also be looking at unemployability with an 80% rating unless he's working. So that's kind of the quick, easy way to get to 100%, in my opinion, on that, because that looks debilitating.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on a high rating for the anemia. I would go for the TDIU too. All right, Richard Claudio. Hello, I am at 94.5. Are you? Which is 90%. 10% tinnitus, 50 migraines, 50 sleep apnea, 70 for anxiety, and depression. Now my private doctor has me diagnosed for IBS. Can I do a secondary to anxiety? Yes, you can. Mental health can certainly cause GI disturbances. You might need a medical opinion to get there. And so that would probably do it. I would venture to say, I haven't done the math on that in my head because I'm from Kentucky, but I doubt it's 94.5. It's probably 94. because they don't use decimal points. So you don't want to look at it as a decimal point. It's 94. The 50 and a 70 is going to be 85. It depends on where the 50
I just ran it. It is 94.
94. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, you just need 10%. That will do it. And the IBS might do it. Sleep apnea is more or less maxed out. Migraines are maxed out. Tinnitus is maxed out. Probably not going to get 100% for mental health. So yeah, I'd go for IBS.
And have them look at not just the anxiety, but also any medications you're taking and see if that could be causing the problem as well.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know what you're taking for your migraines and your anxiety and depression, but medications can always cause gastro issues as well. So, just ask your doctor whether he thinks he can relate it. And I mean, he might be able to put that in your medical records for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that is it for us today. Thanks, Kerry. Enjoyed doing this with you today.
Thank you, Shannon. We haven't been on here together in a minute.
It has been a while.
Yeah. Well,
thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Somebody will be back next week to answer your questions. And thank you for your service.
You served your country, and now another challenge awaits. Getting the VA disability benefits you've earned. Too many veterans face endless delays and denials, and they shouldn't have to. At Hill and Ponton, we know the system and how to fight for you. Scan now to download The Road to VA Compensation Benefits, a free guide from Hill and Ponton, trusted VA disability attorneys. For over 30 years, we've helped veterans secure the benefits they deserve. Our free guide helps you avoid common mistakes and know when to call for backup. Scan now or visit hillandponton.com.